In this video, we're going to take a look at custom reports. So I'm going to navigate to my reports module and click into custom reports. And for this first video, we're just going to go with something simple that isn't going to use all of these steps in the wizard and build out a positive pay report. So I have one here. I'm just going to edit on it. And if you are creating one, obviously you can just, use whatever columns make sense for you. So like I said, it's a wizard, has multiple steps. There's 11 that show up at the start. Depending on how you build out the report, you may end up with 13 steps, like if you group it or different things like that. Your primary data source then is where you're pulling the information from. So if I'm creating a positive pay report, I'm going to pull that from AP payment information. So that's my primary data source. Like if you're building something and it's based off AP bills, you'll pull AP bills. If you're building something and it's based off employee info, you'll pull employee info. So, you kind of just need to know what your primary data source is. And then sometimes, let's say with detail, you might need to do invoice detail instead of invoice just to get to the lines if you're trying to pull line information. So line information is going to be in the detail area when you're pulling primary data source. So that's the first step, is just pulling your primary data source. If you have audience and type set up, then you can apply that there. In the next step of the wizard, then you're going to select the columns that you want on the report. So from AP payment, I want to pull in my check number, my payment amount, my payment date, and my vendor name. Obviously, if you are creating your positive pay report, you're going to base that off what the bank wants to see. So if you need additional columns, then they may be here or they may be down here. And sometimes you might need to, click into one of these other fields to access the information that you need. So on my vendor detail, there might be something here that I want to pull onto the report. So, and then within vendor, then there's all these other fields that get opened up. So it's really a matter of going through, selecting the columns that you need, making sure that you get down to the level of detail that you really need to pull onto your report. So next step of the wizard then is to add calculated columns. We don't need to do calculated columns for this particular report, but I'll show you that in another video on a different report. Next step in the process is to order your columns. So what sequence do you want them in? So I want check date, payment date, check number, vendor name, payment amount. And I have changed the titles on these because this is how I want them exactly to appear on my report. These are the headers that I want. If you want to move them around, you put your cursor over here where the dots are and you can just move them around. But this is how I want it to appear. You will obviously do whatever makes the most sense for you and the report that you want to get out of the system. Next step then is if you want to do column totals. So obviously you have all of these different options. You could, do a sum of the amount, do an average of different information, something like that. So you can play around with that as well. You'll know better than I do what information you need on the report. Okay, so next step then is, how do you want those columns sorted? So do you want it in ascending order of vendor name, or do you want it by date? And I have chosen to do ascending document number. So that's how you can do it ascending or descending. And then you can put filters on a report as well. I am not filtering out this report, but you can. You have the option to drop down on the columns from the different areas of the system. So here's your AP payment columns. If you chose columns from another section of what you can pull into the report, then you would go down. So let's say if you did pull something from vendor, you would come down here and it would show you all the columns that you can select from vendor. And then your different operators are here. So let's say if your filter out by document number is not empty. So, if the check number hasn't been filled in, it hasn't been printed, then you don't want it to show up or something like that. Or like what we saw before when we were doing selected for payment through views, you can also create a custom report for that. And you could filter out by your state equals to selected. Or, if you wanted to see posted payments, posted, different things like that. And then the next step in the process is if you want to group your information. So if I say no grouping, then it doesn't open anything up. If I say grouping, then it gives me an additional step in the process. So see, it actually gives me 2. So there's 13 steps now. So I can group, let's say, by vendor if I wanted, which I am not going to do for this particular report, but there is the option to do grouping. So I'm going to say no grouping, and I'm going to continue on. Brings me back to 11 steps. And then I have the option to set my default dates if I want, which I'm not going to do here because I'm going to either put in my start and end dates or I'm going to put in my reporting period. And what title do you want to give to this report? On the next step, then, do I want additional prompts when running this report? So let's say if it was a project-based report and you wanted to prompt for a particular project, then you would select that. Or say you wanted a particular vendor, then you could, put that prompt in there. So it's literally just turning it on and it gives you that prompt on the report. So that's something we'll look at in the next video with a different report. Last step then is, you've named your report already. Do you want to add it to the menu? And yes, I want to add it to the menu. Where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it in the accounts payable module. So within the accounts payable module, then I have my custom reports. You can see my positive pay report there because I had previously added this to the menu. You can give it a description and, you can also make it inactive here if you don't want it to appear anymore. And then you would save. So that is creating a positive pay report. Really simple report to create in the system. And in the next video, we'll do one that's a little bit more robust.